Welcome back, everybody, to the Law News Network. I'm your host this morning, Rachel Stockman, also editor-in-chief over at LawNewz.com. You are listening to some of the opening statements from the prosecution in the ADRIAN LOYA case, which is a case out of Massachusetts that we've been following here in the Law News Network. It's a case of a former Coast Guard officer who's accused of killing Lisa Turbnikova and injuring her wife, Anna, in a horrific incident that happened in February of 2015. We are hoping to get back in court and continue to stream the case live this afternoon, if not tomorrow. We had a little bit of some troubles this morning getting our stream going, but of course we are working hard to try to bring it to you this afternoon. I want to turn now to another topic, and that is the devastating Hurricane Harvey that's just battering parts of Texas and made landfall in Louisiana today. At last count, 30 people have died so far in Texas, and Houston remains in rescue mode. I want to bring in our Law News editor, Colin Kalmbacher, who's a new editor and attorney at the website, and he provides us with a lot of really good legal analysis on some of the day's top issues. One of the pieces that he did today, we actually posted it yesterday, was a piece called "Insurance Lobby Bought Off Texas Politicians Just in Time to Reap a Harvey Windfall." And this is basically, Colin, talking about a new law that's set to go into effect September 1 that could really hurt some of these hurricane victims.
Right. So I guess one of the first things to get out of the way is that anytime a new law goes into effect in Texas, it's going to file on September 1st. So that's when it always goes into effect, once it's filed in the legislature, voted on in the House and Senate, and signed by the governor. So the optics here are particularly poor because Harvey, of course, made landfall a few days ago, and that has left a lot of people kind of scrambling to understand what's going to happen with this new law. Basically, the long and short of it is that it is corporate welfare, but it's only going to affect mostly claims that reach the litigation stage. So if your insurance company is actually doing their job, then you're probably going to be okay. If it gets to the point, however, where they're trying to slow walk your claim, no pay, low pay, or don't want to pay it at all, then you are basically, by this new legislation, motivated to kind of not file the lawsuit. And that's essentially the whole reason this thing was passed in the first place. The insurance lobby started, banging on everybody's doors, issuing press releases earlier this year talking about a spike in litigation and bad actors filing false claims, et cetera, et cetera. This happened in the aftermath of Hurricane Ike, which is to be expected. There was, a lot of damage, a lot of claims, and insurance companies, for better or for worse, mostly don't want to do their jobs. People pay for insurance, and insurance companies like that, but whenever it comes to paying out claims, that's when they get a bit jittery doing the thing that they're paid to do. So of course there was a spike initially, but it's been completely overblown. That spike went down, but they were able to convince mostly Republicans in the Texas state legislature and a few Democrats. I note in the article that this bill was passed with bipartisan support, that this legislation was needed, and here it is. It's a couple days away, and it will be going into effect soon.
So, like you said, very interesting timing, especially with this hurricane. You said it really won't affect people that have a standard insurance claim for property damage. They submit it and they get what they want, right? So it's basically in the cases where the insurance company is trying to lowball them or is not reimbursing them for the damage.
Yeah, and I don't want to cast aspersions against all insurers, but if you have an insurance company that's willing to pay out a claim, if you maybe know your claims adjuster or your insurance guy or gal, whoever, and they're good and they've been good to you, hopefully they will, not try to stick you with the bill after Hurricane Harvey damage. But I don't know, it could be an issue for lots of people because most people don't have flood insurance. Most of the, aside from Houston, lots of places are getting hit where regular homeowners insurance will come into play, other forms of insurance possibly. And property owners do stand to, they face the prospect of being basically scared away from litigating in the first place. So yeah, if you run into an instance like that where your insurance company is trying to screw you over and you have to, bring it to a court of law to try to get a settlement out of them, then this new law, it makes the hurdles much more voluminous, and it takes away a lot of the incentive to file those lawsuits in the first place.
And this is a very important subject, you know, as we've been following just the devastation that's going on in Texas. The last count that I saw where 30 people lost their lives. Houston continues to try to clean up and actually continues to rescue folks that are stuck in the storm waters. The next phase in all of this is going to be people trying to piece their lives back together, people trying to rebuild their homes, and we have some pictures, I believe, of just some of the damage that we're seeing in Houston already. You can see that car is underwater. Sorry, we went to white for a second there. I'm not sure why. But basically, the damage we're seeing in some of these homes is very, very horrific and very devastating. And of course, the next move, as soon as people find out that their loved ones are safe,
right,
as soon as they get rescued, as soon as they're in a dry area, they're going to be calling their insurance companies and trying to recover. And you're saying that basically it's going to be even more difficult for them because of this legislation.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of social media, I would say, like, I wouldn't want to call it fear-mongering. I would call it more confusion than anything. Lots of attorneys in Texas, consumer rights organizations, and of course the opposite side, the Republicans who have strongly supported the bill, some of the Democrats who kind of voted for the bill in hiding but are now being forced to account for their vote, and the insurance lobby back and forth on social media talking about what this bill does and doesn't do. So there is the September 1st deadline. You know, unsolicited legal advice, go ahead and file a claim if you can. Nobody's really going to be thinking about that right now, but like you said, sooner than later that's going to come into play. The main thing that this bill does, I would say, is it takes away the incentive to file those lawsuits in the first place. It also slashes the amount of percentage interest that you can get from an insurance company after they have denied a claim unlawfully. Right now that stands at 18%. This new bill takes that down to 5% over the prime rate, which is currently at 5%. So that's almost a 10% decrease in the amount of money you can exact from your insurance company for their bad behavior in the first place. It also basically gives insurance companies the ability to pawn off the bad behavior, anything that was egregiously done, any kind of wrongdoing onto an individual claims adjuster or insurance agent. But what the bill also does is immunizes those claims adjusters and insurance agents from any sort of liability. So when you dig deeper and deeper into it, I would recommend you read the article, not just for my clicks, but because it goes into a lot more depth and detail than we can do here. It's just giveaway, handout welfare for insurance companies, and they don't need it. That's the thing.
And the insurance lobby is one of the biggest lobbies, and notoriously in Washington, D.C., in the states, giving to politicians to try to get some of this favorable legislation because, of course, you know, lawsuits and voluminous claims cost their bottom line. And so they're trying to find any way possible to postpone litigation or have to pay a big windfall in situations like this. It's just unfortunate with the timing when, you know, here we are dealing with this hurricane, this devastating hurricane that's hit Texas and parts of Louisiana, and people are really going to be hoping to recover not just emotionally, not just physically, but also some of the money because so much property has been damaged. I do encourage you, thanks Colin so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
I do encourage you to head to our website, LawNewz.com, if you're curious about this new bill, this law that's going to go into effect, House Bill 1774, supposed to go into effect September 1, correct, Colin?
That's
so check out our website and you can find out more about it, especially if you live in Texas. Colin's actually from Texas, but he told me from the Fort Worth area, so thankfully none of his loved ones have been too affected by the storm. But our hearts—
a little bit of rain.
A little bit of rain, but our hearts truly go out to many of the victims that live in the area that are dealing with us right now.